Hello and welcome into the Sporting Pod. Along with Tony Allegretti and Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cole Pepper. Coming up on the pod today, what lessons American teams can take from the Wrexham story. Champions League is halfway to deciding the semifinals, and more from our new reporter because I messed up.
Oh, perfect.
We'll get to that in just a minute. We're fed by the Bearded Pig, locally owned and operated with the original location in San Marco. Make sure you swing by the Bearded Pig for great barbecue and great time. All right, we have talked on our radio shows. We will talk on our TV show, and we will talk here on this podcast about what I think is the biggest soccer story in the world right now, not necessarily just from a traditional competition level, but from a much larger perspective, and that is Wrexham gaining promotion for the third consecutive year. First time that's ever happened. And the impact that that story is having on that community, and that the greater spotlight that is being put on promotion and relegation, and the impact thereof for American soccer fans. I want to leave this somewhat open to the direction, but Tony, I want to start with you. The Wrexham story of a historic but beaten down town that has long supported their soccer club.
Through the good times and the bad.
And there had been a lot of bad.
In the brink,
really on the brink of losing the club.
Cliff's edge.
And here come these two actors. Rob McElhenney was the first to dabble, and then he got Ryan Reynolds involved. And since then, it has been an unbelievable rocket ship of a story.
Yeah, it's a Cinderella story, and it's introduced so many soccer fans in the States to the non-soccer fans to the sport in the States, and that's been a huge bonus, I think, for the sport worldwide.
So, what lessons do you think American teams can take from this Wrexham story?
That's interesting because it's so different, right? And the part of it is promotion relegation, and the return on investment that they've sort of grown at Wrexham. I think it's unprecedented, but it's also not duplicable. So like they're the takeaways I think are going to be different for every team, and I think for the USL, the takeaway is like this is the story that we can tell. Somebody in the third division, maybe it's Portland, Maine, or somebody can crawl up and win it all. I mean, Wrexham hasn't won it all yet, but they're seemingly on their way to the Prem.
Mal, what kind of lessons do you think are applicable from Wrexham back here to the United States?
Well, I think the biggest lesson is if we're able to get promotion relegation in place in USL in the next couple of years, the amount of interest of investors going overseas and getting clubs like Wrexham and many others that we haven't even heard of, or at least we don't know of, but have history and existence, but maybe were poorly managed and are under administration. If they can do what has been done with Wrexham, maybe not mirror it, but take lessons from it, and we can apply here in the U.S., whether it's a forming of a club, or maybe there's a local club that's playing amateur football right now that has aspirations to become professional. Maybe there's some of these U.S. Open club stories, right? Detroit City FC came through really as an amateur U.S. Open, U.S. Open Cup story, and then they started kind of climbing the USL Championship rankings. With promotion relegation in the USL League One, is there USL League Two team in place now that has a really good following, and with the right investment in the right city, have the aspirations to slowly start climbing up the ladder, similar to what Wrexham did?
I think that's a really good point, Mal, because there are quite a few really strong USL2 teams. The first one that comes to mind is, Vermont Green, right? They sell out every week. They're unbelievable. They win trophies, etc. Why wouldn't they take that momentum and that model into the pros and really go trophy hunting. Like that makes a lot of sense, and there's a ton of teams like that.
And you talk about ownership and the impact thereof. What we have seen a trend over the past 3 years, 4 years, 5 years is more American investment into, in particular, English, but not just English soccer. A third of the clubs in the EFL, the English Football League, are owned at least in part by American owners. And when you see those investments paying off, whether it's Wrexham or whether it's Leeds United, it's owned by the 49ers Trust, and others, as they get promoted, that ROI is huge. Now, in the United States, the media deals aren't as lucrative, and certainly not to the point of where it is in England. But as those deals continue to grow, and I think they will in the foreseeable future, there's going to be more benefit to being at a higher division. And so if I'm investing in a USL League Two club in, say, Naples, League One now, and you can go from League Two to League One by becoming professional, and now you can go from League One to the Championship by your merit, and from the Championship to what we think will be called USL Premier by merit. Now, there are a lot of obstacles still with promotion relegation because it does not jive with the U.S. soccer guidelines. Those are going to have to be adapted, or a different workaround is going to have to be created in some regard. But the promotion relegation side of it is certainly big. The other side of this Wrexham story that I think is essential for American soccer teams, and some really have this already, is the connection to the community and how connected to the community you remain. Tony, you're on the forefront of this from the foundation side with Sporting Jacks and the free soccer clinics that are going on and other efforts that are continuing. But it's not just that. It's also reflecting the community, as well as providing a gathering place and a community gathering spot. And you see that in places sometimes in MLS. Seattle jumps right to mind. Kansas City are a couple of places I've been to games and seen that. In the USL Championship, places like Louisville, Sacramento, Indianapolis, and others have that as well. So it is more difficult to become a part of the fabric of society when you haven't existed yet. than when you've been playing for 120 years.
Yeah, you're conceptual.
Yes,
and that's and that is that is one of the barriers that makes it hard. But I think you make a really good point. About like Naples, for instance, their cross bay rival Sarasota. They're in USL 2. They played in the U.S. Open Cup, and I think it went to PKs. I know it was really close, and Naples won. But that's the kind of thing that we need to see. Like, I would love, like I say that, I think I've said this 100 times, I would love for there to be eventually a club in Ocean Way, a club in Nocatee. We need that in these communities like you're talking about. And that's the best part about Wrexham is they're teaching soccer. They're talking about those links to the community, and those are things that we normally wouldn't see if they didn't have such a good, sort of megaphone.
The Welcome to Wrexham show it has been so well done. And it has hit all the right notes, I think, throughout the course of this.
And then think about, and you're talking about TV money and all that. Think about like now the championship. If you think the guys that are selling the championship TV deals are excited about Wrexham coming up, and it's kind of like the how many Kansas City Chiefs fans there are now.
Right.
Just an intangible.
There's a bandwagon.
Yeah. Just an intangible because of the the ownership for Wrexham or the fans, et cetera. So it's just an exciting time to be alive.
By the way, Stacey Balaam, Sporting Jacks head coach, was in Wrexham for the game in which they gained promotion.
Wow.
And we will hear from her on We heard from her on the coaches show on Tuesday on 1010XL, and we'll hear more from her on the Sporting Jacks Report this weekend, Sunday at noon on NBC 12. All right, let's remind you that season tickets are now on sale for the USL Super League 2025-2026 season. Tickets start as low as $10 per game for students, $12 per game for supporters, and $15 for general admission. If you think you're going to be a big supporter, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are. Make sure to join the supporters group and get things going. And Tony, in a future show, we will have a little bit more about the supporters group efforts.
Yeah. In fact, there's a special little slice of our event on the 13th at Friendship Fountain for anybody interested in becoming a supporter. You get a little extra.
A little extra something. All right. Go to sportingjacks.com or call 904-863-KICK. The season ticket sales, they have a cowbell that rings in the ticket department, and yesterday it was basically
you can't get any work done. So there's a little bit of an issue, I think, with the cowbell.
Can we go ahead and just sell it out so we don't have to hear the cowbell ananymore?
Yes, please buy your ticket now.
It was ringing left and right when I was at the office yesterday. All right, let's talk for a moment about the Champions League. First leg of the two semifinals are in the books. PSG, a 1-0 winner at Arsenal at the Emirates, and a 3-3 draw between Barcelona and Inter Milan, played in Barcelona. Takeaways from these two matches. Mauricio, let's start with you. Who's in the best shape right now to win, get to the finals and win as a result of the first legs?
I'd have to give it to PSG. I think the smart money is on PSG getting the lead, in London, taking it back to Paris. Looked really impressive on the day. I mean, Arsenal was good on the day, but PSG just looked like they're in control, especially, after they went up. I don't know if you guys got to watch the Inter-Barcelona game yesterday. I only saw the highlights at the end of the day.
Slugfest.
Yeah, I watched. I saw about the last 25 minutes, and boy, was it! I mean, that is high level.
Every time Inter would go up, I wanted to text you guys because you may remember that I picked them, and I think they're a long shot.
I do think it was a big surprise to see how well. I mean, and talk about the goals, right? Like he was 3-3 goal allure, but the quality of the goal is unbelievable. I mean, who's this kid, Yamin Lamau? Have we talked about him yet?
Yeah, listen, I want to bring him up because every time he touches the ball, it feels like lightning is about to strike. And Mauricio, we talked about him last year. As he was sort of making his big stage debut as a 16, 17-year-old. Right now, obviously Messi and Ronaldo are still playing. So you talk about careers. These are the two best players in the world in terms of their careers. But right now on this day, do we have to start including Lamar as the best player in the world?
Well, let's put it this way. If Barcelona wins the Champions League, they win La Liga, they win the Cup, which they just won the Copa Rey.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they win two, I mean, they're gonna win La Liga. It's pretty secure at that point, unless they really stumble. But if they win 2 out of the 3, if they win the treble, there, what is he not the best player in the world on the best team in the world for 2025? I would say that the argument. I mean, Lewandowski, Rafinha. I mean, they have more goals than he does, but he's got more assists and double-digit in goals. I just think he's impressive.
Oh, and he won't even be 18 years old until this July.
That's right. And they say that imitation is the biggest form of flattery, right? I disagree. I think when players on the field they're looking for you. Like they're literally looking for you on the field. Like you can see in Barcelona is anything but a complete football. Like there's not a one individual, but then all of a sudden a Messi comes around or a Yamin Lamau comes around. When players on the field start getting their head up and seeing where is he, and they start bypassing option A to go to option B and your option B or C, I mean, that's the biggest form flattery on the field. And we're talking about a 17-year-old.
Exactly. Well, and his goals are obviously awesome, but the way that he picks out people is amazing. Like he gets down. They can't touch him. They can't get near him, and there'll be 6 defenders between him and who he's trying to reach, and he'll just pinpoint it. Like unbelievable skills.
And he had a shot. I think it was in maybe the 80th minute or something, where it was a little toe poke chip that went over the top that hit the crossbar, and if it's 2 inches lower, it caroms in, and Barcelona wins.
Yeah,
I mean that's again, it didn't, so it wasn't.
Right.
But it was that. I mean, here's a 17-year-old on this stage making a play like that after he'd already scored a goal earlier. I think we've been thinking about who comes next after Messi and Ronaldo. Kylian Mbappe, Neymar, Vinny Jr., all these different names that have come up and you discuss. But I think this is the one.
Yeah, none of those are touching him right now.
No, yeah. The other ones, I mean, Mbappe is probably going to have a really good career. Vinny Jr., they're going to have great careers.
Mm-hmm.
But talking about like the next best player in the world consistently for the next 10 years, as we never thought we will see again. I mean, it's too early. None of us have a crystal ball. There's a lot that can happen in the game of football. Seems like a good kid. They allow him to be a kid, but he's pretty special right now.
The best players bring up the quality level of their teammates, and if you look at Rafinha now versus Rafinha at Leeds, I mean, come on, like we're watching something that I haven't seen in a while. Where this is not the Iniesta, Messi, Barca, Xavi. Like this is like. This is, in my opinion, it's one kid and some other guys that are just playing out of their heads.
Yeah, Pedri obviously has benefited from this. All of them, and these are top players who have been elevated by this teenager. It's pretty remarkable. All right, I want to do this. We had some issues with last week's upload. Probably my fault because we produced the podcast at home because of schedule change and travel for me and some other things. And instead of relying on the fine folks at Gemstone Media,
I tried to do it myself.
It's like oil change, and I forgot to put all the oil back in. So we missed out on a lot of our conversation with Emerson Burris, our new club reporter, who will be starting with us now later this month, middle of May. So we want to do that now. Let's hear more of my conversation and Mauricio's conversation with our new club reporter, Emerson Burris. One of the things that really impressed me about Emerson when we were going through this hiring process is that when there were things that didn't necessarily work out as intended, she used that as an opportunity to create some new opportunities. One, for example, there's 2 that really jump out at me. One, I want you to talk about it. Amazingly, with the Razorback Sports Network, which is the digital network that feeds into the SEC network, they had never had a sideline reporter before that until you showed up and you said, "Hey, let's do this." Tell me that story.
Yeah, well, I knew I wanted to be in front of the camera. I did a little bit of that throughout high school for the student video team, and I really liked it. I knew I wanted to stay involved in the sports world. I knew I wasn't a D1 athlete, but still wanted to contribute in one way or another, and got involved a little bit with the journalism school, but they didn't necessarily have sports-related major through the J school. I did a sports reporting class, but again, that wasn't something that was necessarily setting me up for a full-time opportunity after school. So I reached out to the director of broadcast and our play-by-play announcer here at Razorback Sports Network, and I gave them the idea. It took a little bit of time and a little bit of persistence because it was another step on their end and more work on their end. And so it took some time, but I was persistent. And yeah, I was able to tell stories of athletes here at Arkansas. I really covered a lot of soccer, volleyball, men's and women's basketball, and then I really got into gymnastics as well. But yeah, I wanted to create an opportunity for myself, and so I put in the work to get there.
I love that. And then you mentioned internships. One of your internships was with Sporting KC, so you got a little soccer exposure there. And then you had one with Fox Sports in Charlotte, but what happened?
Yes, so I had an internship in LA after my sophomore year at Arkansas at Fox Sports, covered the Gold Cup and World Cup, and loved my experience there. So I wanted to check out the Charlotte office after my junior year, and that was really NASCAR based, and had covered one NASCAR race before, Daytona 500 with Fox. It was an experience to say the least. Had never really been a NASCAR fan, but I was excited about the opportunity of going to Charlotte, but the week before my internship started, Race Hub, the daily show out of the Charlotte studio, was canceled. And my roommate Lauren and I kind of freaked out. She's a senior at the University of Florida, and we were like, what do we do? Are we still going to go out there and see what happens? We talked to HR, we talked to our manager, and they said, come on out, we're going to figure out something for you. So the office was really slow, but we were still able to work on melts and work on graphics and just kind of put our hands in a few different areas, but it just wasn't enough for Lauren and I. And so we talked to our manager and said, hey, we would love to just start something. We'd love to start a podcast, a show, do we have an opportunity to do so in the office? And it kind of just came to fruition. We started long form content. It was called the Queen City Sideline Report, and we were just talking about things going on in Charlotte, and the Olympics was happening, so we covered the Olympics a little bit, and then we then cut those down to short form content and pushed it out onto our socials. And it was short lived. It was just for the summer, but it was a way to just add more to our plate when there wasn't a whole lot going on in the office.
Well, I don't know why you say you're not a Division I athlete and maybe not competing on the field, but your story of perseverance and trying and adapting, I mean, that's exactly what athletes do. So you certainly speak the language, which is exciting because you're going to be facing a lot of stories that are the same and telling a lot of those stories. So that's really exciting. We're going to have to tolerate more Kansas City stories, I suppose. We've come to believe that Cole makes up a lot of these stories. So now he's got a little someone to validate those stories. So we're excited to have you on board. The $1 million question, Emerson, that I'm going to ask you is sports are all they're not necessarily trampling positions, but certainly there's a goal in mind, right? And everyone in sport when they begin, and certainly coming out of college, there's this kind of goal in mind, and that should show in how you operate daily and what you go about your business. What does that look like for you? Like, what do you want to accomplish through this next phase through Sporting Jacks in your role? And eventually, where do we see you in 2 to 5 to 10, 15 years?
I think the goal all along has just been to tell stories and inspire fans. That's one thing that I really loved about sports growing up is those feature stories that you see during college game day. You get to know these athletes behind their jersey, and they just have so much to share, and they have incredible, inspiring stories. And I think that's really what I want to do at Sporting Jacks is, yes, I want to tell the analytics and give that inside scoop of what players might not be able to share with just the normal fan. I want to be able to share that while they're on the field, but I also want to tell those stories behind the jersey and give them an outlet to share that. And then hopefully in the next 5, 10 years, I'm on the sidelines of a World Cup. That's always been a goal. I grew up loving Cristiano Ronaldo. I wore number 7 just for him. And so that would be the long-term goal.
My long-term goal was to work with Mauricio Ruiz, so I kind of feel like I've lived
It's
that
all
dream.
downhill from here now, then.
Right now, it's what else is? I'm just kind of playing out the string. We're visiting with Emerson Burris, who is joining us with the Sporting Jacks broadcast department and will be our club reporter. You will see her on the Sporting Jacks report. You'll hear her on our radio shows. You'll hear her on the podcast. You'll hear her and see her on our digital platforms and social media, on the sidelines when we broadcast our home games, and very excited for her to join us. All right, let's talk a little bit about the transition here. As you mentioned, coming from Kansas City, you'll be driving down, probably taking almost exactly the route I did in 1996. It's been a while. That was before Emerson was around, by the way. But you're going to be moving to Jacksonville. What are your expectations here in Jacksonville? I know you do have a little bit of a connection here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be at the beach. I've lived in Kansas and been landlocked my whole life. So I'm excited to be by the water. I graduate May 9th from the University of Arkansas, and my mom and I are making the drive down there. We're going to stop in Nashville. So Might take my mom down to Broadway Street and show her Luke Bryan's bar or something like that. And then headed down to Jacksonville. I do have some family there. My mom's cousin, who I call my aunt, owns a boutique in Jacksonville called Rosie True. And her husband is a high school history teacher, I think it is. They have 2 kids and they are world travelers. Wiley's a sophomore at NYU and has worked out that she will never study another day in New York City. She's going to utilize the campuses all around the globe. And so they're going to be in Ireland most of the summer. So my job is to take care of the dogs and the cats, and I get rent free all summer. And then eventually we'll find my own place after I get settled and integrated into the Jackson lifestyle a little bit.
That's awesome. Well, obviously, you know that you're coming into a historic time in Jacksonville, specifically for women's sports. And that's something that this organization has really made a huge pillar of how we want to form the organization. We're going to have a men and a women's team, but we're really excited that we get to lead with the women's team. We'll be the first ever, as you know, of any women's sport in the city of professional sport in the city of Jacksonville. And it's great to get more representation. What does that mean to you to be a part of a historic time, not just in Jacksonville, but in this time that we're living right now, where women's sports are such finally on the forefront of a lot of the conversations?
Yeah, I'm so excited. It's such a special time to be a woman in the sports industry, whether that's on the field, on the court, or behind the scenes. Women are breaking down barriers that have never even been thought of before. We're in the Caitlin Clark and Paige Becker's era on the basketball side, seeing Sophia Smith and Trinity Rodman excel on the women's soccer side. It's incredible. I'm so excited to tell these stories. And growing up in Kansas City, it was so amazing to see the first stadium built specifically for women's sports in my backyard. I worked the NWSL championship that was played in the current stadium. So it's incredible. I'm so excited to get immersed into Sporting Jacks, especially on the women's side, as that just continues to grow, not only in Jacksonville, but all around the country.
I also want to ask you about being in the community, because that's a big part, of course, of what this soccer club and most soccer clubs are all about is really getting in the community, and specifically in this community with the motto of lift every voice, and what that means to you and what you're looking forward to in terms of getting into and kind of digging into what's happening in Jacksonville.
I mean, I'm excited for it all. One thing that really attracted me to this position is merging with the youth clubs. I grew up playing soccer, as I said, and I think it's super important to get children into sports. It just creates a strong foundation. And so I'm really excited to get involved with the youth soccer side and just, kind of mentor those kids. Just let them know that, yes, you can go be the next Alex Morgan one day, but there are so many more avenues that you can go down, and having sports as that foundation, I think, is so important. But yeah, I'm excited to get involved in anything and everything in the Jacksonville community.
And you can help me underline to Mauricio and anybody else that Kansas City barbecue is, the center of the world.
It sure is. It's superior. People keep saying Austin barbecue, Texas barbecue is the best. No, Kansas City's is the best.
There we go. Mauricio, see, it's 2-1. There's no.
I'm outnumbered. There's nothing I can do here.
All right. Well, Emerson, we are so excited for you to join us here. You'll be seeing Emerson starting next month on the Sporting Jacks Report and elsewhere, as we mentioned. And we certainly look forward to having you down here and to having our fans and our growing community around here having the opportunity to meet and get to know you better as well. So thanks so much for coming here on the pod and joining us. And can't wait till you get down here in Jacksonville.
Thank you, guys. See you guys so soon.
Welcome.
Well, you can hear why we are so excited about Emerson coming and joining the team. We look forward to bringing more from her on TV, radio, podcast, all of our digital platforms, social media, you name it, sideline reporting, the whole bit. So we're looking forward to that, to be sure.
MySpace, Vine.
Yeah, we'll put it. We'll put it out on AOL Instant Messenger.
Fax, if you have a fax.
We'll mimeograph something for her. Yeah, we'll get it. We'll use all the technology available to us. TI-86, you name it. We'll use it. All right, that'll do it for us here on the Sporting Pod.
Wait.
Oh,
Whoa.
we've come to the point in the podcast where Tony interjects something that he didn't tell anybody he wanted to talk about until this moment.
Right, and that's why we're all pros here. So join me Saturday morning, 7:30, Toasted Yolk. We're doing, it's BOGO, mimosas. It's a watch party, sound up, Fulham Villa. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is at, if you're listening to this today, it's Forest, or it's Brentford at Forest. That was a game that I went to last year, and there was a scrap in the owner's box.
Oh.
So just that's one. And then tonight.
Wait, hold on. Were you the cause of the scrap?
No, I had nothing to do with it. I love them all. Actually, what's his name? Dyche was in the box, and we had just lost. I was at the match. We had just lost to Luton's first ever Premier League win the day before.
We being Everson.
Yeah, sorry, and I refused to talk to Dyche after that. Anyway, I digress. And then the third thing is tonight is the Kentucky Derby.
Not the Kentucky Derby,
Correct.
but the Kentucky Derby.
Yes,
with
it's at Louisville,
City.
and it's v Lexington. So,
Yeah,
anyway, that's it.
Love it. Great scheduling, by the way, by the USL.
Well, yeah, and I was thinking about it. Yeah, they could have done it on the day, but then nobody's going to
pay attention.
Yeah, so
Yep,
right,
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, that'll do it. Mauricio, glad you're back in the light, and Tony, always remaining in it.
Thank you.
For Tony Allegretti and Mauricio Ruiz and Emerson Burris, I'm Cole Pepper. Thanks so much for listening to The Sporting Pod.